Hey guys, it's Clovis, and today we're going to get stoned. Or Stone D rather, sorry. Stone D, Mystical Sand, these are your two best options for your leader abilities, of course, so I really always talk about leader abilities because they're important, I think, and rocks are very interesting. They have a completely unique set of abilities, so improved resistance for same type friendlies. Only two monster types get this. One is fairies, which have, the most OP set of leader abilities in the game, but rocks get these, and that's really interesting to me because no other type like these. All these awkward different types that have increased strength simply don't get it. And another thing about these which is interesting is they get destroy specific enemy type. There's a lot of archetypes in the game that get destroy specific enemy type in addition to spellbind specific enemy type, like insects for that matter. But these guys only get destroy specific enemy type, and that is dinosaurs. So if you guys play rocks against dinosaurs and you have a deck leader with this ability, it's a free game. You destroy all dinosaurs that go near you. So if the enemy's entire deck is dinosaurs, like Rex, you can just walk up to them and destroy all of them. I know who has reptiles, but you guys get my point. All you need to do is just cover the enemy's summoning area, and every dinosaur they play just instantly dies. Improved resistance for same type friendlies opens up unique strategies. Unfortunately, the game doesn't let you dark hole the field with this effect working, but you can use stuff like Fairy Meteor Crush. You can also, it's a good protection from Breath of Light, which all those 50 deck cost counter cards that completely devastate archetypes. If you play your deck leader, like all your monsters in your deck leader around each other, you don't actually have to worry about Breath of Light or any of those destruction cards at all, for that matter. Or let alone your own, I mean, as I said, you can just activate a bunch of Fairy Meteor Crushes and don't have to worry about any of your rocks dying, which is really, really cool. But of course, the main reason why we want a high level one is extended support range and increased strength for same type friendlies. So Mystical Sand and Stone D. I picked these two options because they're fusions, of course, which I'll talk about the fusion algorithm in a second, but fusions are important because you can level them up faster by creating 5 out on the field at a time and skipping turns, as opposed to, Millennium Golem, which you can only put 3 of out in the field unless you go over the enemies and revive it or whatever, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a lot better, especially, it's just faster in general to just use the fusion method, so yeah. Mystical Sand, you need to fuse a rock with a female. The rock can be any rock, but the female must be 4 stars. You can always do tricks to make higher level females out of lower level females, however, so if you want, you can make this with 1 star. You can fuse a dancing elf with a rock, because the 2 dancing elves will make a mystical elf, and then that will make the mystical sand. What's another one? Mystical elf. You can also do dark elf, so dancing elf plus a 1 star spellcaster, dark spellcaster. And there's also, a female with a plant to make Queen of Autumn Leaves fused with a rock will make Mystical Sand, etc. Stone D, now, I apologize, I don't know the exact algorithm for this one, but it's obviously a rock with a dragon. You might have to do a bit of experimenting to figure out that precisely. I just generally use 4-star rock with 4-star dragon. It works every single time. I only think one of them needs to beat the threshold, though. But I'm pretty sure it's 4 stars. I think if your dragon is 4 stars, it works, so you might be able to defuse it with lesser dragon, but I try and use all the 1500 attack ones because, I don't know, you may as well. But yeah, these are your 2 deck leader options, unless you want to use a low level one, of course. Ancient Jar, you get the direct damage halved, which I mentioned before in the zombie one. It depends if you want that trade-off. I mean, in this case, you still get improved resistance. But destroy specific enemy type on its own is not an ability I would count towards, this trade-off. And increased strength for same type friendlies is all the way down to 100, which, may as well not make it a leader ability. And I mean, extended support range only really synergizes with 3 of your abilities, and one of them, I mean, it doesn't really matter too much. Destroy specific enemy type. If you were using that, you would just rush towards the enemy anyways. Improved resistance for same type friendlies is the only really valuable thing that's extended in this situation, unless of course you have a 5-star one, in which case that strength bonus is very, very valuable. Ancient Jar over here, may as well talk about this effect because it's a really, really cool effect. So, kind of broken actually. The turn count for spellbound cards is not conducted while this card is face-up defense. So what that means is, anytime there's a spellbind counter and this is face-up defense, the Spellbind counter doesn't go down. So, you know, if the enemy walks into like a Mesmeric Control or Tears of the Mermaid, and you have this in face-up defense, they are eternally spellbound. So something you can do is, you know, run a few of these in your deck, and just run some trap cards. You can even run cards like Swords of Revealing Light, or what's that card? Invitation to a Dark Sleep. When you flip that up, if it just stuns all your enemy's cards for one turn. If you have one of these face-up defense, all their cards are just stunned forever until, you know, they play something to deal with that. So yeah. These low-level cards are very important for fusions. You even have Pot the Trick, which releases all your cards from being spellbound. Pot the Trick and Dragon Piper are good for that, because without that you'd have to use Cursebreaker, and if you use Cursebreaker it would dispel all the power-ups you had. Muka is like one of the most broken cards in the game. When this card's flipped face up, the power of this card increased by 300 points for every monster in the controlling player's graveyard. So this is basically Swordstalker on steroids. I always highlight the importance of fusions, and especially the low level. It's your way of bringing up higher level stuff by playing low level monsters. But in the case of Muka, you want to fuse as much as possible. You want to make as many Stone Ds and as many Mystical Sands as you guys want, so that you're just continuously dumping material to the graveyard. And yeah, as a result, Muka gets a shit ton of damage. If you're just constantly fusing stuff and your whole deck is built around fusing Mystical Sands and or Stone Dragons, then Muka will get thousands of damage within, you know, the first few turns. It's actually quite ridiculous. Haniwa, nothing special here. It's just another one of your 2-star rocks like Morphing Jar. I guess you could use these for fusions, but you obviously want to prioritize Muka and Pot the Trick. There's no reason to not include these in your deck. Prisman flips all your spell cards face down. This effect I always found interesting, because the only time it comes up is when the enemy flips your spell cards face up. It's a way to be able to flip your cards back down to be able to move them, but you won't really be playing any position-based spell cards in this deck, I don't think. I mean, if you were, you'd be activating, you know, cards like Dimension Hole you kind of use to activate straight away. Prisman, you know, it doesn't flip any trap cards face down, which would actually be interesting, because you could do that and use, like, Magical Neutralizing Force Field or something, but I don't know, flipping all your spell cards face down doesn't actually really do anything, so yeah. Giant Soldier of Stone I want to bring up, because 3 summoning level, this card's stats are, like, really ridiculously good. You can even include, like, a lot of the rocks are actually high defense and attack, so you can even include, like, Sword and Shield if you wanted. I'm pretty sure that should work through the leader ability, the improved resistance. But yeah, 3 summoning levels means doesn't matter what happened, you can always play it, unless, you know, the enemy has Fiend's Mirror, which no enemy ever plays, so that doesn't count. But it means every time you draw this, you can play it, and that's really important. If the enemy uses like a Magic Drain or something, and then, you know, you draw this card, you can play it anyways, and stick all your equips on it. So yeah, that's always cool. Dissolverock kills all cards on mountain terrain, so it's similar to like those 2 zombie effects that do that. It's a situational thing. These cards aren't really supposed to be anything like, those effects are just kind of like useful things for the player to get rid of stuff. It's good on a duel like Joey, or it's also good on Richard for killing like his back row, and of course one of the obvious ones would be Mai. The whole field pretty much is mountain, and the sides are wasteland actually, so you can move this up on the sides and chase it around a little bit, flip it up and destroy everything on mountain. Again, you got some pretty uninteresting rock cards here. Minomushi Warrior is actually a mix between a warrior and a rock, so that you can fusion summon that. What just happened? Here we go. And Stone Ghost, that's the one I wanted to point out. Stone Ghost is actually a zombie and a rock. I forgot to mention that on the zombie one because it makes a rock, so I thought it wasn't worth mentioning. You know, for zombie deck you don't want to make a rock. I don't know, again, this is like, it's not a very strong card. You don't really want to fusion summon for 1200 attack. You may as well be fusion summoning 1-star cards to make, you know, Mystical Sand and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of these cards, there's not too much stuff to report, honestly. I just kind of wanted to go through the importance of fusion strategy, bring out Mystical Sand and Stone D as your like high damage at low level is the best way to play the deck, because a lot of this other stuff is like 4 or 5 stars, no effect, and pretty underwhelming. I mean, this is literally, if you look here, there's literally just 8 cards here that just have bad stats and no effect, and then you have 3 more here. Destroy Golem isn't too bad, I mean, but a lot of these, like, 3 stars for 700 attack is just not good. You really want to use the effects of the more powerful creatures like Muka, Ancient Jar, as well as fusing to make the stronger cards, and then of course flipping up your Muka on attack to gain all the fusion material as bonus damage for the graveyard. That, in combination with your leader abilities, the improved resistance and stuff like that, will be all the strategy we'll need for a rock deck. So, yeah, there's not too much else to talk about this, so I will quickly discuss the support cards, of course. Your terrain support is Wasteland. Most of you probably know that already, but yeah, it's the only terrain boost you get, so. As far as power-ups go, I did mention, obviously, so Spring of Rebirth works on all Thunder, Aqua, Pyro, and Rock, so the point of this card is to give yourself like the option of mixing any of these and having quick card for them. But really this, I don't know, it's interesting because they this card does not do this in the real life game, so they kind of made this spell card a power up, like a courtesy power up for all these types that didn't have one essentially. And that kind of is lame because Spring of Rebirth, well, it is 500, it's your only 500 attack power-up, so considering all of your stuff is Earth, you probably want to use a few Invigorations, which I always bring this up. Invigoration is 300 boost and 15 deck cost, so if you're going to use that, you may as well just add in Megamorph, and then that gives you the freedom of actually adding some non-rocks in your deck if you wish. But actually, another option you have is Horn of Light. This can be equipped to Stone Dragons, so if you're making a deck that's all Stone Dragons, you can stick a few of these in your deck. And you also have the female equips. I went the wrong way, whoops. Electro Whip, Cyber Shield, and Malevolent Nuzzler. If you're running a Mystical Sand deck, you can just stick these in there. And that's important because, you know, all these equips that I mentioned after the Invigoration and Megamorph give more damage than the Invigoration or the Megamorph. So if your deck is mostly Stone D fusion material, you can add the Horn of Lights instead of the Invigoration, and then maybe just add like 1 Invigoration. So you have like 3 Spring of Rebirth, 3 Horn of Light. Another thing you can do is 3 Spring of Rebirth and 3 like Cyber Shield if your deck is mostly Mystical Sand. But yeah, there's not too much to talk about this on this archetype apart from that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.